Anyone who played Monster Hunter World knows that co-op wasn't exactly perfect. It got easier with Rise, but then the Wilds beta raised similar concerns again, leaving many players confused. Now, you might be wondering how Wilds handles multiplayer after release. In this video, we'll break down everything you need to know about the game's co-op, what you can and can't do together, and where it really shines. So, if you're considering Wilds for the co-op experience, stick around.
First off, the game looks gorgeous, no denying that. Although it's still developed in Capcom's internal RE engine, the graphics are next level and a huge visual upgrade to World or Rise. The combat itself also feels super fluid and responsive, especially with the new lock-on mode, the new Raptor Bird mount Sacred, and tons of other new features that make the game more accessible for newcomers and veterans alike. But we will tackle all that in a later section. Meanwhile, many of the features that longtime fans know and love are still there. Everything that makes the game feel like Monster Hunter. Your Palico friend, a helpful handler, and giant monsters to hunt in a big open world. So with everything old and new out of the way, how did the co-op evolve?
Well, let's break it down. It takes about an hour to complete the introductory story sequence, including all cutscenes. After that, you'll be able to play together for the first time, but more about that later. Overall, there are 3 types of multiplayer features: the SOS Flare, multiplayer lobbies, and the link parties. If you're not familiar with the SOS Flare, this is a system where you can call for other people to aid you in fights. This can be used manually over the Missions and Quests menu, or set to be used automatically in the options. Other players can then choose to join you over the SOS Flare Quest section, where they see the monster you're facing off against. You can use this system even if you're already in a party with a friend. It allows people to join you until your combined party size is at its maximum, which is 4 players. Wilds takes this system even further with the Support Hunter feature. Support Hunters are NPCs that fill in if you either prefer it that way or if no human players can be found. So, if you'd rather fill your cozy 2-player party with NPCs, you are free to do so in the settings at the quest counter.
But the SOS Flare isn't the primary option to play Monster Hunter Wilds in multiplayer, but rather a fallback. The real co-op lies behind the lobbies, and especially the so-called link parties. Lobbies can hold up to 100 players and turn the base camp into a socializing hub that you can use to chat and interact with each other. You can think of this as a sort of realm or server, as is typical in many MMOs. You can also create your own private lobby and invite people by sharing the lobby ID. In the member list menu, you can get an overview of all the members in your lobby. You will be assigned to a random lobby if you don't specify one directly on login. Once you're logged in, you first need to add each other to one of the social lists. These can all be found through the member list in the main menu. There is one for your current lobby, one for your friends, squad, Steam friends, and so on. If you're wondering, squads are the Monster Hunters version of guilds. You can join multiple at once, and they are especially useful for larger groups. To manage squads, head to Felicita on the right side of the main tent in the base camp.
Joining one of these, be it lobby, squad, or friends list, always works by sharing an ID, especially with crossplay, since you don't have the handy Steam overlay on consoles. Once you're in the same lobby, it gets easier, as you can simply browse the member list of the lobby to find the person you are looking for. From there, you can invite them to your squad, link party, or friend list. If you're having trouble joining directly, there are other options. You can exchange a squad ID, which you can get from Felicita, or share your Hunter ID, which you'll find in the lobby member list under your own entry. The lobby ID is also in the same list in the upper right. If you want to join a specific lobby, you can do so from the title screen or by talking to Alma. We found it the easiest to form a squad and then always join the squad lobby from the title screen. That way, all that back and forth with IDs isn't necessary.
Sounds very convoluted, and we must admit, it is. That's why we recommend adding each other to one of the mentioned groups as soon as possible, making it easier to reconnect. To do this, one player needs to invite the others into a link group. Once you're in, you get access to a group-only party chat and voice chat for coordination. Each party has room for 4 players and one dedicated leader, but anyone in the group can start a hunting quest. Just keep in mind that especially early on, you won't see each other in the hub, even if you're in the same lobby and group. This only works after progressing far enough to unlock the second weapon slot. As for playing through the story together, things are better than in previous games, but still not seamless. Story sections that involve talking to NPCs or cinematic scenes are single player only. But once a hunt starts, co-op can begin right away. If the quest involves a monster confrontation, battle invites are being sent out to other members automatically. Upon accepting, the others are then loaded in to complete the objective together. A quick tip: while waiting for your team to gather, equip the ghillie mantle to avoid getting attacked. Side quests, known as assignments, and optional hunts for the whole group can be started at Alma. Should you ever get disconnected from a session due to a crash or other issue, the best way to rejoin is to restart the game. Use the Hunter Friend lobby search menu to re-enter the lobby, re-establish the link party, and then rejoin the link party quest at Alma. If you still can't see each other in the field, simply send an invite to the environment link. The environment link is used in link parties to gather everyone in the same phasing outside of the base camp, and thus lets your group do casual activities on the fields like gathering materials and exploring. As the sessions are always online, just like in MMOs, the host doesn't need a stronger PC as they do in other co-op games. But this also means that you cannot play together locally, so everyone playing needs their own copy of the game, even on consoles. Talking about consoles, the Xbox version will require an online multiplayer subscription like Game Pass Core or Ultimate to play online co-op. Similarly, to play on PlayStation 5, you will also need PS Plus, so keep that in mind when choosing your platform.
But what if you cannot always play with friends? Due to the lobby and SOS Flare system, you're quite flexible when it comes to party size. Even if your dedicated group isn't available at some point, you can join up with random people, or try your luck alone. And if it doesn't work out the way you had hoped for, use the SOS Flare to rally some troops. Speaking of friends not always being available, let's now talk about how progression works in Wilds. Your progression is tied to your own character. This includes finished story chapters and gear. If you have someone joining in late, you can help them progress through the story by helping with their hunts. However, the opposite is not the case. So if you want to play through the story together but have different time schedules, you should hold off from progressing the story solo, and rather just hunt monsters to equip your character with better gear and weapons. Otherwise, you will have to play through the same story chapters multiple times. Speaking of gear and weapons, the gear is tightly tied to your visual progression, as the armor sets resemble the monsters you have slain. That makes sense, as those are based on the materials you get rewarded for when hunting them in the first place. This is the core gameplay of Monster Hunter games. You set out to slay ever more powerful enemies to improve your equipment for even more powerful enemies. Oh, and your Palico's equipment too. For your own character, there's a neat variety of sliders and options to play with. The same goes for the Palico, your little furry helper. The character creator is so detailed that you can easily spend hours to create your in-game doppelganger. Now that the setup is complete, you're surely wondering what the main gameplay loop is all about.
In classic Monster Hunter fashion, you progress through the story while hunting continuously bigger and more dangerous monsters. This time around, the flow of the game in co-op is way more fluent than, for example, in Monster Hunter World. This is largely thanks to the huge open world. Hub-style maps from the previous games are a thing of the past. Those hubs were only shared in small parts and only if you specifically invited each other. The story often let you play to a certain cinematic in single player, until you could cancel a quest and start it again together. This always felt very clunky to us and took away from the otherwise mostly compelling gameplay. The open world largely eradicates this now. No dropping in and out, just play together and hunt together, with the occasional cinematic and talking sequence in between, which are for obvious reasons single player. Each hunt entails a quest, which is completed upon the monster's defeat, giving everyone ample time to loot the remains and get their fair share.
The gameplay itself needs a little getting used to. On PC, you can play with either controller or mouse and keyboard. Each has their own pros and cons, but we would say that the mapping between the two is well made. Whatever you pick, you have to get into quite the list of shortcuts and keybinds to play the game. Veterans of the franchise know exactly what we mean. It's not exactly an easy game to pick up in terms of learning and mastering your class. but we'd argue the most accessible entry of the franchise yet. There are plenty of in-game tips and tricks, as well as button and keyboard mapping guides. A training ground that teaches you combos is also available. Hunting gameplay got a lot more focused on the fights themselves, instead of reading tracks and chasing monsters. Long gone are the stretched out sections in World, where you were chasing a monster wondering where it went. Now your Sacred has an autopathing function that always leads you to your objective. No confusion or getting lost anymore. Additionally, your Birdie can also carry a second weapon set, making the times you showed up with a knife to a gunfight way less frequent, as the monsters have weaknesses. Veterans might argue that functions like these made the game too easy, but we'd say it just allows you to use your time more wisely. While autopathing, you can sharpen your weapon, replenish your potions, or stretch your legs. Also, there is now a lock-on feature that not only allows you to swing and aim your weapons more accurately, but also highlights wounds on the monster. Hitting those crimson glowing wounds inflicts extra damage and allows to sever body parts more easily, which provides extra loot. And it's easier to aim and hit where you should be hitting. If at any point you and your friends have a different gear level, the better geared players can always help out.
The gameplay loop stays the same during the whole game, while the hunting targets and environments constantly change and demand different strategies. This keeps the gameplay fresh, even with hundreds of hours spent in endgame. If you liked a certain hunt specifically, or want more materials from a monster, you can always repeat said hunt. One of the new mechanics in Wilds is also the focus on a living world with ever-changing weather effects that impact how monsters behave and which monsters are present. 3 seasons alternate: Fallow, Inclemency, and Plenty. Each environment has their own apex predator, which will only appear during Inclemency, recognizable by strong storms and other weather effects. An example for this is Raydal, who only appears during thunderstorms in the Windward Plains. Plenty is the perfect time to stock up on meats and materials, with large herds of monster roaming around, which means coordinating your group according to the weather forecast seems to be a thing now.
So, hunting together is the core of the game, but does co-op actually enhance the experience? We would argue yes, totally. The game's big weapon variety, with 14 distinct choices, naturally encourages teamwork and synergy. One player might take on a defensive role with a shield, absorbing heavy hits, while another keeps their distance, landing precise focus attacks and creating wounds for the team to exploit. Alternatively, you could coordinate a stun-heavy melee strategy, locking down the monster with a hammer to create openings for your mates. The possibilities are vast and each hunt feels fresh, depending on how you and your team approach it. Beyond pure combat, co-op adds dynamic moments that just don't happen in solo play. Whether it's one player using flash bombs at the perfect moment to save a teammate, carefully planning a trap mid-fight, or pulling off a well-timed environmental attack, like dropping a boulder on a monster during a chaotic chase. These little victories make teamwork incredibly rewarding. Communicating and executing strategies together brings an extra layer of excitement that enhances every hunt. It's already a lot of fun alone, but really shines when tackling hunts together. And while monster health does scale up with more players, it doesn't increase at a 1-to-1 ratio. Meaning the challenge remains fair, but the advantage of teamwork makes hunts feel smoother and more efficient.
Communication-wise, the game offers everything you need to have. As we said, there is a chat and a voice chat, plus the occasional pings and emotes. You can disable the voice chat if you prefer it that way. Also, beware, since almost every hunt is tied to a limited number of deaths. This can lead to friction in the group, especially when playing with random players. You won't be able to disable the chat, so if that's something you'd rather like to avoid, make sure to fill your party with support hunters only. As for suitability in general, we would say the game is quite accessible, due to its many improvements from its predecessors. Keep in mind that it's rated PEGI 16, which we would second, as it's definitely not suited for younger children. However, if you and your group, be it friends or partner, are willing to get into the slightly more convoluted controls of the game, you're almost good to go. The game is also ideal for players with limited time, as you can easily jump in for a single hunt and log off without committing to long sessions. Just beware of the social features we mentioned before. They could cause conflicts and not every hunt always leads to a success, so if you're easily frustrated, maybe reconsider. Accessibility-wise, the game has a lot to offer. There are options for colorblind filters and arachnophobia, but only for ambient spiders. So you probably have to face the big spider monster Lalabarina with your eyes closed. Good luck! Also, there are visual supports to adjust the UI elements, hearing assistance, and motion sickness reduction. The keybinds can also be mostly adjusted to your liking.
As good looking as the game is, keep in mind that it is also quite demanding hardware-wise. This is especially an issue on PC, where hardware isn't streamlined like on consoles. If you're not sure whether your computer can handle Monster Hunter Wilds, you're in luck. There is a free benchmark tool on Steam which allows you to determine exactly that. So no guessing game in advance. So, this was quite the information until here. Let's take a minute to talk about what we enjoyed most. For me, I enjoyed the storytelling and character designs. And of course, the monsters look absolutely phenomenal. But even if that was not the case, I'd buy the game just for the Palicos. And my new favorites, Sacred Chicks. Speaking of Sacred, your new mount feels amazing too. It carries your things, runs fast, and can even glide down ledges.
I myself am a big fan of how the hunts got these huge quality of life updates when compared to the predecessors. Previously, these hunts could easily feel like a chore and tedious to set up, let alone the co-op. They were dragged out, and if mistakes happened, you were immediately punished with a failed hunt after half an hour or more. This time around, the hunts focus on the battle itself. Weapons feel impactful, the team play is rewarding, and overall the gameplay is just way more fun and accessible, even in shorter play sessions. So to wrap things up, you might want to pick up the game if you enjoy bite-sized adventures, where mastering the game's hidden nooks and crannies can enhance the cooperative hunting experience to the fullest. This could also be a great entry point if you were interested in past Monster Hunter games, but found the barrier to entry too high or the co-op experience lacking depth.
However, if you're not a fan of repetitive gameplay loops, limited activity variety, the current steep $70 and above price tag, or a complex co-op setup with the occasional forced single-player experience in between, this game might not be the ideal hunt for you. As for the future of the game, we already know about a free DLC coming in spring, bringing new content already, with surely more to come in the future. But that's it for this video. We hope you learned some valuable information to help you with the decision of whether you should jump into Monster Hunter Wilds for its co-op now, or if you're on the hunt for another game. Whatever your decision, we wish you loads of fun in co-op with your favorite people, and we will see you again in the next one.